Did you know that most people need 7 hours of interaction with you across 4 different platforms and experience 11 meaningful touch points before they're ready to invest? Now, that is not random. That is buyer psychology. And I have personally witnessed this with some of my best clients. So let's unpack why this is becoming essential. You are listening to Amplify Your Success podcast, episode 465. And today, let's dig into a new content model that builds trust faster. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, authority amplifier to expert-based entrepreneurs ready to scale their reach and their revenue. And today I want to unpack a content model that's been emerging. More and more people are talking about it. And I was like, what is this really? And I was fascinated when I started to dig in, and I want to share it with you because I think it shifts our perception of why content matters, and it will help us understand how to use some of the frameworks I talk a lot about here, like my collaboration currency and the authority trifecta frameworks to build authority, and how they fit into this model and why they're going to move the needle for you right now in the market. Now, as I mentioned, authority, really, this is one of the key ingredients. If your authority is low, if you don't have recognized expertise in an area, this model, it'll work on some degree, but this is going to work a million times better when you get that dialed in. So if you do not yet have my How to Become Unignorable as the expert in your industry, the framework that I have put together around that is very simple, it's very poignant, and it's what I've done for 20 plus years and coached all of my clients through. And it's a needle mover when it comes from being a best kept secret to being the one that people choose. So if you head to melaniebenson.com/framework, you can get it absolutely free. Highly recommend you start with the scorecard and then go through the process. I'll send you a few tips to go with it so you can really unpack this framework and decide for yourself what will you focus on to get known, to get recognized, and to become unignorable as the expert that people should be choosing. Now, before I get into this model, let's talk a little bit about something that's been talked a lot about in the industry lately. Maybe you're experiencing it too, and it's what's referred to as this trust gap. And I think what's happening, like anything that surges and grows and evolves, you first see a huge uptick in people's buying behavior, and then it dies out. And what we're seeing right now, especially in the coaching online business world, is that a lot of experts have no shortage of visibility, but the connections are poor. So they're visibility rich, but connection poor. And so when you think about, I need to leverage my time, I need to hand things off, what's happening is people are handing off their content and their online connections, or they're not doing them at all, or all of their content is being produced by AI, which is starting to erode trust. Like, is that real? Is that made up? Did AI just come up with this story? And what we're finding is that there's a trust deficit, and people need trust in order to buy. So all of this noise that's been made over the last decade about be seen online, and that builds that authority, it builds that awareness, and that leads to buyers. Well, if you don't have the trust with it, it can still fall flat. And followers doesn't necessarily equal buyers in this marketplace. And what we're seeing more and more is that this surge of new coaches that hit the market during the post-pandemic, what do I do with my life now that I can't go to work? It has now added another level of complication to all of this. So there's a lot of newer coaches presenting themselves as experts, but they don't necessarily have the track record or the the proven results, because they just got training and then went out to the market and started just telling everyone they could produce results. And that's created another form of a trust gap. So what we're seeing right now is that we need to kind of turn the model on its head. Visibility alone isn't going to necessarily get people to become buyers, but visibility with trust can open up a totally new type of relationship. And instead of feeling like they can't trust you, they're curious, they're willing to go deeper. It's not like this instant ick factor. There's oh, well, I'm intrigued. What else is there? And that's the basis of this model that's emerging right now. Now, the model is a blueprint. It is not hard and fast. You don't have to do it exact, but it's a blueprint for building this know, like, and trust factor that we've heard about for years, right? It helps expand credibility. It deepens emotional connection, and it builds trust. And the bones of the 7-4-11 model that we're talking about today came from a Google consumer behavior study, that in order to inspire people to take buying action, they need 7 hours of exposure to you across 4 different locations or channels through 11 different interaction points before they are comfortable saying yes to a purchase. Now, in the old days, we heard somebody needs to hear your message 7 to 11 times. Well, apparently we're throwing that out the window and adding in across multiple channels. Now, before you go, oh my gosh, I can never pull this off, let me just tell you, you probably have more of this content and these channels in place. And there's some that I'm going to inspire you to put some attention on based on how well this is working. So let's go a little bit deeper. What does this mean? 7 hours, 4 locations, 11 interactions. So 7 hours is depth. Think bingeable, trust-building content. Podcast interviews, your podcast, a video series that you do, trainings, longer videos, long form content, Substack where you write or journal, right? This is where can somebody deep dive into you and your content. Now, this is something I've been teaching the clients in a 3 Accelerator for years, because I personally found that they need to be able to binge you once they learn about you. But let's go a little bit deeper, okay? And I'm going to give you a couple of case studies of how this works in a minute. Across 4 locations. So what does that look like? That's repetition. That's reinforcement. That's showing people that no matter where you are, there is a consistency of brand and a congruence across all of the different places where you may be hanging out. Now, you don't need to be everywhere, but you do want to really get to know, where does your audience make buying decisions? Where are they looking for solutions? Where are they active? So do they listen to podcasts? Do they binge YouTube? Do they frequent a certain social media? Here's an example. If my client tells me my best clients are B2B or they're professionals, I'll say LinkedIn has to be one of your platforms. But if they're more in the arts, or if they have, if they're a podcaster, or they're maybe B2C, consumer first, then Instagram or Facebook is probably where I'm going to put their primary focus. Doesn't mean they're not going to be active in the other areas, but we're going to develop the content for that platform. Now, you probably are already doing this, but maybe you're doing it haphazardly or without real intention and strategy. And so the opportunity in this is to really think about the channels that, if you were really focused on them and really focused on creating content that moves the needle on your ideal client, you might do it differently. Now, the third piece of this model is 11 interactions. And this is, think consistency, think different ways they might consume a similar message, but they're hearing it slightly different. And so there are these touch points over and over and over again, reinforcing, showing up, making sure they get that you're there, you're not going anywhere, you can be relied on, and building those micro moments of value and trust. So, and highly recommend it be different formats, because it's like you can create an email. Anybody can write an email for you, but I guess with some of the AI today, this is debatable, but they should be able to get a sense of who you are in a video or a reel. So think about how are the different ways you can interact with them. Now, this is where the value of things like DM messaging, being somebody who interacts in the comments, responding to emails that come in, having voice messaging services. Again, you have to think about what's right for you and your client base and your ability and your team's ability to interact. But the more ways somebody has to interact with you in a Facebook group, in your school community, whatever that is, over and over and over again, the more real you become, the more trust you develop. So here's an example of how I saw, before I even learned this model, I saw this happening in my own business. And this must have even been 4 or 5 years ago now. I had a client who was doing a Google search on something that was important to him about where he was in his business and what his goals were. He stumbled onto a website that showcased me and a podcast interview that I had done. So he listened to that podcast interview, and because of the messaging that I teach, Lighthouse Message, he was like, oh my gosh, I feel like Melanie's speaking to me, but didn't know me. Totally cold lead. Didn't know the interviewer either. So he then followed the breadcrumbs and went to my different social channels and followed me. He then went and downloaded the free resource I offered from that interview. Binge that. Then, Melanie has her own podcast. Binge that all weekend long. A little bit annoyed was his wife, but she got that he was really interested in learning about me. And by Monday morning, had booked a consultation with me, and by Wednesday, had invested very high 4 figures to work with me for the first time. And we ended up working together for 3.5 years. Now, why do I share that with you? Because it's a perfect example of someone who had zero idea who I was, but through this model, developed enough rapport and trust with me and knew I knew my stuff because I had strategically designed an email series that went out from my free resource. They could go and get reinforced through my own podcast. They found some videos online, right? And then they started Google searching me, and I was showing up over and over. Now, I have the great fortune to have been doing this for 24 years, but however long you've been doing it, we have to make sure you're discoverable, you're bingeable, and that your message is reinforcing itself. So trust is an essential part of the puzzle if you have a premium offer. And if you have a lot of competition, trust leads to this sense of familiarity. And people are going to buy from experts that they, A, believe can help them solve the problem, but B, feel a sense of safety and connection with. I truly believe it is not enough to be a category of one. It is not enough to be somebody who demonstrates results, especially for people who really have been burned before. And that's pretty much everybody that I've talked to lately. Everybody's been burned at some point. So now they want trust. So let me weave in a couple of the frameworks that I teach here and how this can help you integrate this model, 7-4-11. So first of all, you've got to get clear what you're known for and build out content that goes with that. So that's component number 1. Secondly, I really believe that the authority trifecta is very powerful here. So the authority trifecta is that you have a known for quality, that you have your own bingeable content, and then you are having representation, you are expanding the reach of your authority by being a guest on other people's platforms. And those three components, when you're known for something and you have that really crystal clear, you have your own content that's bingeable and reinforces that message. And then that's amplified out into the world through other people's authority. Now you have these three legs of your authority that make it undisputable. Okay, so message reinforces it, the visibility, reach, and the credibility, proof of results, all of that coming together creates this unignorable quality in the expertise that you want to be known for. Now, how do we achieve that third component and we grow the reach of your message and your authority? Well, this is where collaboration comes in. And I am a huge, huge believer in the power of building your own ecosystem. I've often referred to it as the $1 Million Visibility Network, that will exponentially grow the reach of your work to new audiences. It will open doors to buyers who are probably looking for the solution inside of one of your trusted peers or collaboration partners or alliances, but they don't solve that problem, or they don't solve it in a way that's appealing to the person looking. And this is how you jumpstart visibility that reproduces itself over and over and over again. Now, I host something once a year called the Collaboration Currency Challenge. We're about ready to have that happen on November 10th. And I highly recommend that you join us for that if you do not yet have a way to get your message in front of new audiences. This is how, without spending thousands and thousands of dollars on ads and really expensive joint venture strategies, this can get you jump started with aligned partners quickly to start building your own audience of potential buyers. Now, there's many levels to this that I talked about in a previous episode. And if you are interested in this, I highly recommend go through the collaboration currency model that I teach. And if it's past November 10th, still go check out the link. We'll look it up in the show notes. You can go to melaniebenson.com/challenge. And there'll be an opportunity for you to have access to something that helps you move the needle on this, even if the challenge is over. But what I want you to leave with today is recognizing that this model of 7-4-11, where you are really getting the value of bingeable content that is reinforced across 4 different locations or more, and having 11 touch points or interactions that people can continue to witness that you are a potential solution to the problems, or you're somebody that they really want to get to know better. I had somebody meet me at a event I was speaking at online, and she followed me on social media, and then she showed up at the event, and so she'd already gotten familiar with some of my work, and she mentioned something about, oh, I heard that podcast you did, right? And then by the time I was on stage, she was like, I don't even know what I need from you yet, but I just know I need to stay connected to you, okay? And so these are the types of interactions that bond people to you, and they may not know they're ready yet, but they know that they want to work with you. And then it's about guiding them into the right solution. So here's your action for today. I want you to think about, what's your bingeable content? How could somebody binge what you do that builds trust? Do you have your own podcast or a show? Do you have long form content somewhere? So get really clear, what's that? Second, where's your 4 locations? So, and again, they should be slightly different mediums. So is it a podcast? Is it social media? Are you going to really commit to getting emails out regularly? What are you going to do? Are you going to collaborate with people? How are you going to get experienced across 4 different channels or locations? And then What's the interactions? What are the touch points? How are you going to reinforce why you and why you now across multiple, what they call micro moments of value? I really feel that in the economy we're in right now, trust is the most important currency. Collaborations speed that up. You're borrowing trust from the person who's recommending you to their community, to their podcast listeners, to their event attendees. And that is priceless. I also believe that your authority, your ability to demonstrate expertise and why you, whatever those factors are, that is significant. And those pieces together make you unignorable. So I'd love to hear your takeaway from today's episode. Wherever you're listening to this, give us a little shout out on social media. Give us a drop in the DMs, whatever works for you. But I'd love to hear, how are you going to put this model into action? Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. We're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.